Good morning. This is Larry Adams, Channel FSR, Central Illinois. Today I'm again joined with Matt Bennett of Big Bennett Consulting. Today we're going to recap a little bit of what's been going on in the market this last week and kind of go from there. But don't forget to send questions in, and we'll show you again at the end of the podcast today how to send those in and how to get them directly to us. So, Matt, how are you this morning, buddy?
I'm doing good. Trying to plant a little bit of beans, getting back into the field. We've taken a little time off. Basically, the cold temperatures continue to make these decisions hard. Every day you wake up and you wonder why your remote neighbor might be planting, and then in the afternoon you're asking yourself why you're not planting because it's nice in the afternoons. But yeah, it's I don't know. We're going to plant some corn, I think, too. I mean, our forecast is starting to clear up. Right now, we're called to get maybe 1/4 of an inch of rain locally. And so I've got to think that given the temperatures for next week, it's probably time to go ahead and start. I mean, our ground is working better than it's worked. And I hate to say this, but since 2012, I mean, that spring, the ground was working beautifully. Everything just went in the ground perfect. And that's pretty much what I've got right now.
Yeah, so I've got a couple calls this last week too. The same thing like you're talking about, bringing that 2012 thing up, right? And that guys were like, it's been working perfectly, and we're missing all these big rains that we usually get. Still cold, but the ground's working really nice. So on the farming side, we're kind of moving forward. So what have you been catching up with on the markets here recently?
Yeah, there's not a lot of fun stuff to talk about whenever it comes to markets. This has been a challenging year. We all thought 2019 was a rip, but 2020 is doing its best to basically make 2019 look pretty nice. And so right now you're looking at markets kind of still in a bit of a free fall mode. Front month corn futures are just getting beat up. You've got May corn down under 320 this morning, which
wow.
is that's as low as we've seen in quite some time. And the reason for that, ultimately, again, as we've talked about before, is, energy, ethanol, ethanol sector is really under fire. Most of your ethanol plants are not able to post anything like they did as far as a bid previously. Basis levels were looking really good. Looked like cash corn was going to be kind of tight this year. That's all gone to the wayside at this point. And so last week we saw OPEC come in. They had a meeting. They said, we're going to cut around 10 million barrels per day, which is it's a huge cut. But the problem is that over the last month, basically the demand for gasoline has plummeted, absolutely plummeted.
Absolutely.
People stayed home. And so what you've got is you've got a glut of oil, and we've got to figure out a way to chew through this. And the analogy I used with you before is it's kind of like a great big ship, getting it stopped and turning around the other direction. It takes a little while, but once it happens, you can finally see some positive things happen. I do think that we should be finding some sort of a bottom in here soon. I think on the good side, you're feeding a lot of corn right now. A lot of these plants shutting down, and you hear about Smithfield Food shutting down in South Dakota. What you're seeing is that people are going to be feeding livestock to a heavier weight, which means they're going to have to feed more corn. And since they can't get a hold of DDGs, they're going to feed more corn. And so there are good things happening. And again, cheap corn prices usually cure cheap corn prices. But right now is a tough time, absolutely, to be a producer.
Yeah, that's kind of, you brought up the gasoline price. I paid $1.29 for gasoline the other day. And I was like, I don't think I could ever remember the day that was happened all the way back to maybe 18, which has been about 5 years ago. So,
try 35 years ago.
I know. So, one of the things you've always told me, Matthew, is, doing nothing is always the worst thing to do. I know the market is really depressed right now, but we just can't sit back and sit on our hands and say, let's not do nothing, because that's going to get some people in some even deeper trouble. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and I mean, we had talked about this. I wrote in a newsletter here a couple weeks ago. I remember when May corn was in the 340s, and people were saying, man, it can't go down any lower, can it? And I said, actually, I think I would have some price protection if you've got a lot of old corn. And let's face it, there's still a lot of unpriced old corn out there. And this is not a pleasant thing, because at this stage of the game, whenever you look at your new crop corn prices, you've got insurance to protect you. Old corn prices after the fact, there's nothing to protect you. It's a tough thing. And so, yes, the government program, with ARC and PLC has got some measures in place there that could potentially put a little bit of money in a producer's pocket for this marketing year, but it's going to be more so, for the next marketing year that we're going to be able to see maybe some of the impact of that. So, as far as new crop goes, I'm not doing a lot right now because we're still trying to get quantify, get the crop put in the ground, quantify how many acres there's going to be. At the same time, I've got to know exactly what my game plan is moving forward because the opportunities to market could be very small this year. I'm going to say for profit, but you could also say to potentially break even, and to basically keep your farm healthy. That has got to be our goal here in 2020.
Like you said they're always, in the last couple of podcasts we've had, you've always said there's going to be an opportunity sooner or later. There's always going to be a change in the market some way or the other. Do you see that coming here for a little bit, or we think we're going to wait for the next report to come out? What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm concerned with the May report. I'm just going to say that right now. The May report, you're getting your new acreage plugged into supply and demand balance sheet. So 97 million acres that came right from the planning intentions. That's going to be plugged in with a trend line yield. If the USDA can somehow find a carry out below 3 billion bushels, I'd like to know what kind of math they're using. Let's just prepare ourselves for the May report being a tough one. Okay, but I can see a little bit of hope whenever we get towards the June report, because then the June quarterly stocks report, you're talking about usage. And we're exporting a lot of corn right now. We're feeding a lot of corn right now. Yes, you're losing demand because of ethanol, but we're using it in other areas. And so you might get a pleasant surprise there. And I've got to think that you're going to see some producers are going to say, I don't think I can plant corn whenever I'm looking at 340 corn on the board. And so you're probably going to scare a few acres away too. So the market has got to price itself in a manner that whenever we get too cheap, you incur demand. And then when you get too expensive, you scare away demand. And that's exactly what the market's trying to do right now. And I do think that you're going to see this thing turn. Are you going to get the kind of prices that you want? Maybe not necessarily, but are you going to get some prices that you can live with? Absolutely. But you've got to be ready and have a game plan for when you see those.
So you brought also something else up earlier too about insurance levels. What's your thoughts right now with those insurance levels and where we had in spring, and what's your thoughts?
Yeah, we have to keep in mind, if I'm a producer, it's got 85% insurance. With the spring insurance price, that means that anything under 330 at my guaranteed yield, I'm protected. I'm protected by my insurance program. Now, I know a lot of folks bought up to 90 and 95% this year. At 90%, it's 350. Okay, so 350 and below. Right now I'm insulated from further deterioration. Now we've got to keep in mind these are revenue policies that most people are purchasing. So if you have a substantially higher yield, then that price level you're going to have support at a lower price level. But bottom line is, at least we know that we're insulated somewhat from further deterioration. You got to know what your insurance program is this year. I know a lot of people just, I'm going to do the same thing I did last year. I need to know, though, because it could have a big impact on my marketing plan moving forward.
Yeah, I understand. Well, hey, Matthew, I appreciate your time. Did you have any questions from last week that you wanted to address, or anything?
We've had some questions. Most of those center around crop rotation. Most of those center around when are you looking for some sort of a rally. And I would say that as far as the rally is concerned, you're looking at a time. You're entering into a time when you can start to see a rally. Once you get into the month of May and June, typically you start to see some weather things unfold that could potentially move the market. Now, we've got a lot of other stuff that we're dealing with right now, so it's tough to tell. I would say a rally might be happening later rather than sooner, just from my vantage point. But just to answer that one, as far as the rotation goes, that's a question I think we're going to continue to get.
Absolutely.
We have to run the numbers. You've got to run the numbers, know what you can live with, have the conversation with your banker. Maybe they've got a good idea of what they would prefer to see you potentially do if you've got quote unquote swing anchors.
Great. Appreciate that. Hey, Matthew, so for next weekend, and we're going to have another podcast. How can they get a question to you?
through Twitter. I think most people have been getting a hold of me through their direct message. I'm at Chief321. So if they want to get a hold of me there, it'd be great. Just shoot me a message, and we'll try to get things answered.
I appreciate that. And if anybody wants to put one at me too, also is Ag Adams 99. And we appreciate your time today, Matthew, and look forward to talking to you next week. And hopefully we can have a little bit better circumstances or a little bit happier people out there.
Absolutely.
So thanks again, Matthew.
Yep.